Right, guys, welcome back. This is the Above Average FPL podcast. My name's Adam, and as always, I'm joined by Baker. Evening, mate. How are you?
Very well, mate. Very well.
Looking forward to this one?
Oh, we are looking forward to this one. We don't have enough Spurs bias on this pod, so let's dial it up, shall we?
Absolutely. And we've got 10 days now. 10 days until the season starts. So, everyone now really looking to get a handle on their teams, and there's lots of content out there for United and Liverpool and Chelsea and all this sort of stuff, and City. But as you say, like we need to focus a bit on Tottenham. We need to have that Tottenham loving. We need to have that feeling of just everything's going to be all right for us this season. And we've got the boys from the Extra Inch. So we've got Chris, Windy, and Nathan. I made it sound like there was three people there. Sorry, Windy and Nathan.
Dual named, yeah.
From the Extra Inch. They do a Tottenham Hotspur podcast. So if you are a Tottenham fan and you want to hear more fantastic stuff about Spurs, go follow them. If you're an opposing fan, I guess the week before we play you, go listen to them, and you can find out what we're going to do that week, basically. So we'll attack it from all angles. But you're going to help us today. We're going to talk about all of the key players that we want to be looking at, some of the players that are under the radar, and go from there. Sound good?
Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
Good stuff. This is obviously live on YouTube, so there is a YouTube chat. I'll be keeping an eye on that, but we're mainly just going to have a love in, really, aren't we? We're just going to say...
Yeah, the chat's probably just going to hate us, so we should ignore that quite a lot. It'll just be, every time we talk positively, it'll be, normal Tottenham jibes, but well, good. Oh, so Windy, you're playing FPL again this year?
Absolutely, yeah. Last year, I was probably below average. I think I used to be quite good at FPL, and then everyone else started playing it, and I realised I wasn't actually that good as it turned out.
I think we're all facing that, mate. I think that's a problem for everybody nowadays.
Too many good players these days.
Yeah. And I always say it, but we have new people each year to do this, but there's a really, really competitive FPL league in your world. I don't know, what's there, about 800 odd people or something in your league? And it does, if you're not probably top couple of hundred in your pod league, you ain't getting in. It's a really busy place. So if anyone looking for a Tottenham home to be and are interested in FPL, then I always recommend the Extra Inch Discord.
Yeah, absolutely. So our Patreon has a Discord behind the paywall, and there's a FPL channel which gets a lot of activity. And like you say, some very good players in there. Tough competition, very tough.
Nathan, are we pulling you into the dark side this season?
Not this season. It's I mean, I dabbled with Football Manager, which is something that I've sort of written off on the same grounds as, like, I already spend enough time thinking, analysing football, and then I did play Football Manager for a bit, and I've sort of already lost the ball there. So I guess now I can say it's not completely out of the picture that I would play FPL in the future, but basically I'm already spending all my time watching football as it is.
We're one pod closer to Nathan playing FPL again.
That's what we are. One pod closer. Yeah, exactly. And we'll take the hot takes. That'll do us.
That's good. So if you do enjoy the content on the channel this season, then make sure you drop a like on the video and hit subscribe if you want to see more. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, wherever, drop a little review there. 5 stars would be great. And as we've said already, we're heading over to Fantasy Football Fest next week. And so if you're down there, we would love to have a beer with you, a fireball, whatever it is. Not too many of those, but a beer, a fireball, and yeah, so just some good chat while watching the United Fulham game. And yeah, it's going to be a good atmosphere and a lot of fun. So if you're in London, Vauxhall, get yourself down there.
And we're meeting up next week. So have you still got some tickets left for Monday?
Yes, got a handful of tickets for our first live show, also in Vauxhall, weirdly. Yeah, should be good. Hopefully the first of many. We've found a really lovely charity, the Black Prince Trust, that we're looking forward to be partnered with for this. So it'll be helping them out. And a lovely venue, Jolly Gardeners in Vauxhall. Great people, and yeah, looking forward to doing our first ever live show, hopefully the first of many.
We'll drop the description in the chat, and yeah, I'm definitely coming along next Monday. So
Nice
would
one.
be good.
I would love to have come, but I am just so packed full of schedule for next week. I just can't get the time.
Next time, mate.
Next time. Let's talk Tottenham. Let's just get straight into it. People are already saying in the chat we want to go. We want Bergvall propaganda. We want Porro propaganda. We want it all. So, should we start with Pedro?
Start with Pedro.
Is he going to be the best defender in FPL this season?
Who are your other candidates?
Yeah.
Trent and Vardy probably. I mean, most people can potentially have two of those. Porro is slightly cheaper than them. Trent is the most expensive, but of the three sort of premium defenders out there, they're the ones that people are looking at the moment. Is Trent, Vardy, and Porro.
I guess what we're saying.
It's going to be competing for minutes with Bradley, and Gvardiol might not be playing much in the wide areas this season with their change of wide winger profile at City. So I guess that means that Porro is definitely in contention for best defender.
I mean, Nathan, you had a take on Porro when?
No, I know what you're talking to. No idea what you're referring
When
to.
Urge came
Straight
in-
under the bus.
Yeah. Like, we didn't think that he could
Defend.
become a defend.
Yeah, yeah.
And now, how do you feel?
Embarrassed. No. With you know, all respect to Porro, he's come on leaps and bounds defensively, I think, and been able to get in his attacking and creative upside. Yeah, he's really impressed me. I think that he's especially improved in his 1v1 defensive capability, which again, huge development, but the ball will still go over his head at the back post quite a bit. That's still there. It's not like he's just completely fixed, perfect, right-sided defender, but he's improving where he realistically can. And maybe the more positional stuff and physical stuff will keep coming on.
The friendlies like something that we would expect to continue, like his positioning, because he just looks like a marauding free roll lunatic when he pops up on the sort of the left half space outside the box.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to expect to see that too much, right? Obviously we're still just building up.
Well,
You say well, but we're still not full strength in friendlies, and there are players still to come back in.
This is the thing about Porro, though, isn't it? Like in FPL, defender. In reality, deep line playmaker, right winger, number 10. Sometimes in pre-season, has been number 9. He is all over the pitch in the best possible way. He's the heartbeat of the team a lot of the time. He's helping set the tempo, and he's also getting on the end of things. And he's a brilliant finisher. And it seems like we've discovered a way of getting him into the box more so that he can put that finishing to the test. And I am very excited about that prospect.
I wonder a little bit as well whether, obviously, Kulusevski may be a little bit out of his way than he potentially would have been. Like, a lot of the times he was almost playing at that right 10, wasn't he, type space. And, when he would come in, so whereas maybe there's a bit more creative. I do also think when Sarr plays, it also is quite helpful for Porro in that they do interchange really well in the dovetailing. But he had 53 shots last season. That's quite a lot for a defender, isn't it?
The only thing stopping him from being the top scoring defender in the game will be if Spurs don't get their defensive game together and he doesn't get the clean sheets. Because I think attacking output wise, he's got it. He's got everything. He's got crossing, shooting, probably some set pieces. He's got a lot. But defensively, we were quite inconsistent last year, to say the least.
Yeah.
And, I would say in pre-season, it's hard to judge our defense because essentially they haven't been there. You've had Porro and then 3 other players who won't start. So tough to judge off the back of that. But we've looked pretty open, like we were last season. If we sign a player for the final third that can retain possession a little more, or if Kulusevski plays through the middle as number 9 and he retains possession a bit more, the ball should come back at us a bit less, which will help Porro and us more generally. But yeah, we're quite an open side. We're pretty gung-ho.
Do we think that? I mean, do we think that in some ways though, a second season now, we'll just get some natural improvement. We'll just get some natural improvement from it, right? I don't think we're sitting here thinking that we're going to defend exactly the same way and concede as many chances as we did last year. Obviously, I mean, and last year we have to consider that we did have significant injuries to Van der Ven and to Udogie, and we obviously had the Romero suspension. I mean, that Chelsea game basically flipped our season upside down, or like in instantly. And so surely it gets a bit better. I mean, it doesn't, even if it's not a huge improvement, like just even like a 10-15% improvement on our defensive numbers would be huge for the opportunity to keep clean sheets, at least.
I think it was Kulusevski in an interview with Alistair Gold who said that pre-season training's been a bit different to last year, that you can already tell that it's kind of gone up a notch. And what he meant by that is the level of detail. It's not the intensity, it's the detail. So we've got this kind of set of overarching principles of Angeball that the players know now, inverted fullbacks being a large part of it. And now it's about, okay, here's where you are on the pitch, but here's what I want you to do with the ball, and here's how I want you to recover when you lose it. And I think that is kind of what you're getting at there, Adam. It's like you take on what we learned last year to the next level. You've probably cleared out some of the players that aren't quite there with what he's trying to do.
Hoiberg,
and
is that what that?
Yeah, but Emerson Royale's still there, but he'll be gone. There are plenty of others. And yeah, hopefully take it on another stage and progress as a team. And that's the dream, isn't it? That's what we're all hoping for.
I just think it's only got to benefit you when a new manager comes in, and maybe you're going to see the similar thing with Liverpool. But a new manager comes in, and then they're trying to explain to the team how they're going to set up, and looking at scenarios where you want your players to be. And what I'm guessing last season he would have had to use scenarios from, I don't know, maybe his time at Celtic and maybe his time in the past. Whereas now he can look back at specific things that he did with his team in a Tottenham shirt and say, look, you were here. Not like, I don't know, not like Celtic right back was here. You should be here, right? We can use our own players, and then the players can at least relate to it and understand exactly what they're being told to do, which surely must be better.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah. So, I'm expecting our defensive numbers to improve. I'm expecting us to be. I'm still not 100% sure on set pieces, just because I just think as a team we're small, and just really from a heading perspective, we just seem really weak at defensive headers. I don't know why that is. Unless it is just
guy, Nathan. This is it. This is.
Tell me why, Nathan.
I think I had it differently, but there was some writing from turns out he's an Arsenal fan, but a set pieces expert who I really respect. Did a big deep dive into our defensive set pieces and the story of it over the season, where we started off okay. We had a bit in the middle where we conceded a few, and that's when we started to tweak things and change things around. And really, we started with a good setup and probably got a bit too frightened, and probably should have just stuck with what we had and just asked a bit more from Vicario and did some specialist training on working on protecting Vicario, or Vicario protecting himself, more to the point. And I think then at the end of the season, like I'm talking like last 3-4 games, we got back on track, went back to how we were doing things in the early season. Vicario's been lifting weights. So some decent signs there, but like, yeah, we could do a lot, arguably in open play. But if the set pieces are still like they were statistically over the course of the last season, then don't expect too many clean sheets. But then, to be honest, in terms of like what I think we'll achieve in open play, I was hoping there would be signs in preseason that we would change our build-up shape a bit, so we kept an extra player behind the ball, or staggered the players we keep behind the ball a little differently, and there hasn't been any sign of that. We haven't really improved our defensive personnel outside of Jed Spence becoming another option. So we are. I mean, I think Jagusin's done better at right centre back in preseason than he did at left. So okay, Jagusin's improved us there in terms of defensive depth, but I accept the general position. Okay, second season, more granular detail. The general momentum going into season 2, but there are still considerable high level defensive frailties that start with how we act in possession and how we just throw players forwards, take risk on the ball, all stuff that, by the way, I love and I'm glad for. But from an FPL perspective, we're a few transfers away, and they could be attacking transfers, but ones that allow us to keep the ball when we send it forwards. We're a few transfers away from me saying, yeah, I think we're going to be significantly better defensively than we were last season.
Well, let's talk transfers then. You two did a brilliant pod. For anyone again who wants to check that out on the Exchange YouTube, just around, it's actually quite difficult in terms of the changing, just changing players with the number of foreign players we've got, the demands we have on terms of association trained, club trained, and the like, which is probably partly why we're linked mainly to people that are in this Premier League already, and obviously Solanke is the link up front at the moment. Seems to be Solanke more than, say, a Tony in that world. Does that make any difference, even defensively, in terms of the ability of having someone that can hold up?
I think so. Like I said, so apart from the fact that we put a lot of players forward, apart from the fact that Ange wants his players to take risks under pressure, we send the ball forward. We send the ball forward fast into players who. So last season, you would say a front line of maybe Son. Well, you'd say Son at centre forwards, Kulusevski on the right, Werner on the left in the second half of the season. Who weren't really keeping the ball. If it's Brennan Johnson, worse for keeping the ball in the front line, and so the ball goes forward quick, the ball comes back quick. Whereas I think Solanke would be an upgrade in our hold-up play. Not that Richarlison's is terrible, but Solanke didn't miss a single game last season, and that would be significant, So yeah, I do think Solanke would improve Spurs defensively, and also is another big guy, or not another big guy, is a big guy to start for defensive set pieces. So yeah, I do think that Solanke might create 2 or 3 clean sheets over the course of a season, genuinely.
Yes, good point. The sort of injured people, you just mentioned Richarlison, and obviously we've got Destiny as well in that sense. Not featured in pre-season so far. Any news on them? Do we think they're fit for start of season? Do we not?
Udogie is back in training, and Richarlison is not far behind. I would highly doubt that Richarlison will start the season. I think he'll need to get back up to speed on some time. Also, Udogie's had a massive injury, like a long layoff, so we don't know how long he'll take to get back up to speed. The difference, I suppose. Actually, I was going to say the difference is that we don't have cover at left back, so Udogie would kind of come back in, but that's not necessarily true. And also, if Richarlison's out, he's got a dilemma. Does he play Kulusevski through the middle? Does he play Son through the middle? Yeah, it's tough. I think I wouldn't bank on either of them starting the season probably wouldn't bank on either of them playing the first 2 games. Maybe Udogie makes the Everton game. I doubt Richarlison does. Or
Keep
if he
an
does,
eye
it's on the
on
bench.
Udogie's price. I wouldn't be surprised if his goals jumped up a little bit second season.
It's
Yeah.
just it's just the beauty for FPL is the first 2 fixtures.
Yeah.
like after that it's after that it's Newcastle away and North London derby. So like that Leicester Everton game, if we're looking to attack, is it's that, and does make me think again just on Porro, just on the propaganda side of it. If say for example, play safe with Davies as that person there, it almost suggests even more we might see it. Porro as the person that's used as the attacking sort of outlet across those back three. I'd be surprised if he risks Van der Ven like straight in and say, "Hey, go out there and do those kind of running and get an early injury." That feels scary.
I agree. I completely agree. I think Davis, Spence, or Gray an outside shout. I think I would have all 3 of those ahead of Van der Ven in my left back options in Udogie's absence.
Yeah, Spencer's done well.
Spencer's done really well. Yeah, really impressive. Like, there's still speculation that he might leave, but I think we know now that the club have been impressed by his attitude and his application in pre-season. Brilliant ball carrier. Again, like real offensive threat. Doesn't get as many shots as Porro, but gets to the byline more because of his driving runs. Also, like, moves inside plenty with the ball, with and without the ball. So he should find himself in the box. He just hasn't sort of got the same reputation for getting shots away. But yeah, really good player.
In front of them, Biss, how important is Basuma? Because we got 26 starts out of him last season. Now, some of that was self-inflicted that we didn't get as many starts out of him, but a third of the season without him last season is big numbers for me.
We spoke about him on the pod this week, and I made the perhaps slightly grandiose comment that I think he's our most important player because there's no backup. There's no one close to his quality in terms of what he can do. I think he's brilliant. I think he's really underappreciated amongst Spurs fans. He definitely had a bit of a drop off, and I think it came around his sending off and disciplinary issues. I think he lost confidence off the back of that. Then he went away to the African Cup of Nations. Yeah, and there was a period where he didn't look the same player, came back really strong at the end of the season, in my opinion. And I think he's fantastic and so important to what we do both defensively and with the ball as well. Build up play comes through him, and if it doesn't come through him, he's dragging 2 players away.
It did feel like last season when we played. So when we had the pre-season last season, we would see the likes of Skip, obviously was one of them, but Papsar mainly like crashing into the box in sort of late run, basically, to hit that back post. We've even seen that this season already in pre-season, and it just that wasn't available to him when Højbjerg was there trying to protect the back four, and he had to come back in and help out. So, hopefully that gives whoever the 8/10s are going to be, the license to be able to actually, join that attack a bit stronger. Yeah. So that's good. That's good. The more minutes we can get out of him, the better at the moment. I mean, I guess people are going to ask whether someone like Archie Gray could play in there as well as a backup if needed. I mean, that might be a question, actually. So you mentioned Archie Gray potentially on left back cover. Obviously we've got Porro at right back and Basuma at defensive mid. Where does Gray sit in all this for this season, in your guys' opinion?
I think he is
student.
Just a student first of all. That's right. I don't know whether the club want to get him minutes at fullback, get him minutes at 6, get him minutes at 8, or just sort of see what happens. I've got some tactical concerns over him playing 6 in the short, medium term future, to be honest. And I would say on Basuma, in fact, because of that, he's not an FPL pick. He ain't going to get goals and assists. But if Basuma is out for a lengthy period of time, sell all your Spurs players because we're in trouble. That's my Basuma tip.
We need this. We do need him. We've got another young lad, though, not just Gray. people are very interested because he's 4.5 million, as cheap as a midfielder can be. It enables you, to have that sort of like eighth attacker if you can find one that has minutes. Currently, the most owned 4.5 midfielder is Harry Winks. But there's a man, he is virtually a man the way that he plays in Bergvall.
As a Spurs fan, I'm excited about Bergvall. As a Spurs fan, I love that he's in the squad. I think that he can take minutes. But from an FPL perspective, he's not guaranteed those minutes by some way. I think 2 years' time, 2 years' time, we're talking 3 years' time, you've got a midfielder who's going to score goals and he's going to be undeniable in terms of minutes. But this season, I wouldn't expect too many minutes from Bergvall. He's going to be playing in Europa League if he's going to be playing, I think.
Yeah,
That's the thing. That's the thing. And it's not anything to do with the level of ability he has. It's all about the competition. It's all about the number of players who play the same role or a slightly variation of the role. And when you look at our transfer targets, we're clearly trying to sign another midfielder. It seems like we're trying to sign another number 8. We wanted Conor Gallagher. We've been linked with Jacob Ramsey. So he could go even further down the pecking order. But super impressive in pre-season, creative, really saucy, tries things all the time, like wants to commit players. Good ball striking, just good young player, very, very talented young player. But I think I agree with Nathan that he'll mainly be a Europa League starter and Premier League sub. Now that could be useful as a 4.5, that if 3 or 4 games into the season he's had a couple of sub appearances and he's doing things, not the worst shout. You're not going to fill your team with Spurs players at all. Like you might have Porro, maybe you have one other Spurs player. I probably wouldn't. So the option's there for Bergvall as your 5th midfielder if he starts looking handy off the bench.
Yeah. And I guess the minutes, probably the one that I sort of felt watching the weekend as the minutes that he could eat into a little bit is probably Maddison. So Maddison, I feel like this feels like I had a lot of injury last season, came back, doesn't play a lot of 90s, albeit last couple of games he did start to play them. We've got him come back then this start of the season and not played a huge number of minutes again, lots of sort of 45s and so forth. And it feels like a fan base is down on him. There is some changes within FPL to the bonus system, which we did a pod on that a few weeks ago, and it basically, he's like the biggest winner. Really, without changing position or anything like that, Havertz for Arsenal and Maddison are like the biggest winners, for the changes around that.
Can you sorry, I know you've already done content on this and you've got repeating. Yeah. I'm curious, can you do the quick overview on that for me?
So basically, I think the easiest way to describe it to someone is that the bonus points had some really complicated metrics of just different things that someone would do in a game. That didn't necessarily be the same as, hey, we're watching a football game and the person that turns up on the TV when Gary Neville says his man of the match is someone very different to who got the most bonus. And I feel like because, it's a really popular game, they've tried to make it slightly more than that. So defenders now lose points from their bonus if they concede, which they didn't before. So you could concede 7 goals. It wouldn't impact your ability. Yeah. But now goals are a big currency. If you don't clean, you're a defender, you won't. And that negatively affects Porro. Because last season he was able to get bonus. So like the 4-2 against Brighton, because he got an assist at the end, he got 2 bonus points, and it was like, we just conceded 4 goals, mate. But those sort of things won't happen anymore. But what you have now got is shots on target, get you more, and getting fouled. And he used to lose points because he can be quite petulant, but also people kick him a lot.
He is a foul magnet, big time.
He is a massive foul magnet. So if we thought that Maddo's on set pieces and is playing 90 minutes all the time, he's fantastic. The big question, the reason why no one's really looking at the moment is that everyone's not so sure on the minutes. And then you've got Kulusevski and Brennan, who are $1 million cheaper, or you stretch up the sun. So Maddo is a bit of a forgotten man in FPL. How do you feel?
I'm confused why Spurs fans are so down on Maddison right now, to be honest. I think so there's this narrative that predates him being at Spurs. There's this Leicester era narrative that like, oh, for a third of the season he's brilliant and then he's injured and then he's rubbish or whatever. I don't really buy into that. I think that was a Leicester problem rather than the James Maddison problem. Whereas I think he had an unlucky injury in the mid-season this time, and he clearly wasn't fit when he came back. I don't know how likely it is. I mean, obviously he's getting on a little bit now as a player, so maybe maybe you're expecting that injury to keep happening. But I think if he doesn't get injured, he is a goals and assists monster from midfield. The thing is now, obviously, we've been linked to the likes of Eze, earlier in the window, Due, players who can play wide a bit, but also compete for Maddison. So if we make if we make the Eze signing, okay, now Maddison is sharing his minutes in the league. But in my opinion, as it is, Bergvall isn't going to take that many minutes from Maddison. Kulusevski isn't going to take that many minutes from Maddison. So I think Maddison is someone who is worth considering, at least for like runs, if he's not picking up long-term injuries.
I mean, there's a there is a saying that like until he's injured, he's not injured, right? He's fit, right? So
yeah, that's it.
I think we just need to maybe just treat him as fit until he is injured,
and then move on.
And for anyone who wants to lean into playing against former clubs, like he hasn't played against Leicester yet, has he? So
he has not.
Like first game back at King Power could be
then home to Everton.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely is interesting with Maddison. It's a good price point. It's probably the funny thing is that I think most Spurs fans are sort of aware of the Eze links, and but I never see anybody outside of the Spurs circle hears those. Like it's completely new to them that they don't see it. He's in everyone's team at Palace. He's in everyone's team. He's cheaper than Maddison. He's on penalties and all of those type of things. Nathan, you got any ITK that you can say?
No. I'm just thinking like if you've got Eze in your team now and he moves from Palace to Spurs, you're in a tricky situation if he moves after the season starts. Because I mean, Eze, brilliant player, obviously, but is he going to play wide? Is he going to play 10? Is he like keeping Maddison just completely out the team? Or is he a player who, for the first half of the season, is brought in to play a game wide, starts a game on the bench, comes off as an impact sub, gets a run of games on the right because Spurs didn't buy a right winger, and that affects his ability to get goals, things like that. A lot of question marks about Eze bringing in a lot
and
of
now
points.
City have got room because Alvarez has gone today as well. So we know that teams that Eze's been linked to is City and us. So that will
get Eze at your teams. Get Eze at your teams. I think
we got 10 days. We got 10 days to work it out.
Oh, okay, it's fine.
But yeah, we can. Yeah, we'll move him if we need to.
But Maddo, hot on Maddo. Lukewarm. So then we've got the front three. And it's like even what position they're in and so forth. So one is a lot more expensive than the others. In that Son is 10 million. The other two are 6.5. If you look at numbers last season, Brennan got 10 XG compared to Son's 12. Like, it's not a huge number in it. The expected numbers for Brennan are real good.
How did he do in terms of points last season, Brennan?
He did okay. I mean, he only started 23 games, didn't he? So the problem is a lot of people didn't pick him because you never really knew what was the situation with him. Was he the first choice right winger or not? Kulusevski was always there. So
was he good in spurts? Was he good for like a run of 6-7 games and then get him out? Or
also because of, again, he could benefit from the bonus parts, but players that play in midfield because he's a midfielder in
Oh, yeah.
an FPL perspective, is and that don't do a lot. The wingery type guys, they're useless for bonus. The Bowens and the Brennans of those type of guys, where they're really
He's a poacher.
they're poachers. You know what I mean? And those ones is they're good for goals. They get the 5-point goals because they're a midfielder, but they don't get that. And I also think, you know, sometimes a lot of the times with Brennan is that, and we've seen it in pre-season, again, people are quite hard on it because quite often all of his good work's off the ball, like essentially. And the bit that works is the bit with him poking the ball in the net or getting the ball across when needed to, and making those ones. I guess if we buy a number 9, the big question is, does Kulusevski go back to right wing or they start sharing it, you know, or is Brennan now just it and Kulusevski would be the reserve number 9? And if we don't get one, is Kulu the number 9? And then who's the better one? And is Son worth the money to just go up because he's got penalties? And his son. There's a lot there.
Yeah, a lot. And I think too many variables to make decisions on Spurs forwards right now, to be honest. And so I would be avoiding all of them. Unless we sign Solanke, in which case I'll sign Solanke. I'll buy Solanke for sure.
Yeah.
Because with Richarlison being injured, Solanke will start. Son. So I think Son is a brilliant player. Back end of last season, he played through the middle, and I was finding myself so frustrated by him. And it wasn't fair for me to be frustrated by him because he didn't choose to play through the middle, and he was doing his best for the team. But I didn't like the way we played when Son was through the middle because the ball just bounces back off him. Put him wide, and you know what Nathan was saying earlier about ball retention, and you know, you're able to hold onto the ball more, and that helps you defensively. I think Son's ball retention out wide is fine. I think it's good because he got something to run onto. He stands up a defender, and you hold onto the ball, and maybe he passes it back, or maybe he whips it across goal, and Johnson's there at back post to tap it in. I think Son's ball retention through the middle is terrible. The ball bounces off his ankles. He's chasing down his first touch. It doesn't work. I want Son wide left every game. Every game he's fit, and I want him to rotate it a fair amount because he's quite an old man now. Bless him. But generally, I want him play when he's playing. I want him on the left. Through the middle, I want Richarlison or Solanke if we sign him, or Kulusevski, and that's fine. On the right, I'm confused about what we're going to do. I've had to retrain myself somewhat with Johnson. I think Johnson's a good player. I think Johnson is very skilled at a few things. And because he's not highly skilled at some of the other things that I like my winger to do, I kind of have to tell myself that that's fine. He's just really skilled at those few things. But those things are quite good when it comes to FPL points. Like he is brilliant at timing a run and getting it at the back post between the sticks and putting it in the net. I don't think we've had a better winger at hitting the back post than Brennan Johnson in my time supporting Spurs. I don't recall any others that have come close. That's a hard skill to master, and he's mastered it. So that's good. But do I want Johnson starting every game? No, I don't. I don't want Johnson starting every game. I want him starting some games and coming off the bench in others and terrorizing defenders who have got tired legs. But do I think Kulusevski is the alternative? He hasn't played out wide in pre-season for more than about 10 or 15 minutes. He's been midfield or up front. So maybe we'll sign a winger. Maybe the Neto link will finally come to fruition. We'll sign Pedro Neto and he'll be our right winger a lot. But yeah, there's too many variables. It's too confusing. And unless Son starts incredibly hot, then I'm leading Spurs attacking our front line in reality and our forward and midfielders in the game alone.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how Kulusevski's gonna, because Kulusevski doesn't fit that profile that Ange wants on that right hand side anymore. It doesn't quite work the same the same way as we had it under Conte, right? So, but he's the only one that can play out there, really, isn't he? I mean, would you force maybe even like Jed Spence up there, or would you just put Jed Spence at right back and force Porro up there?
Just buy someone. You got to buy someone
just-
if you don't
Yeah.
like it, and
Yeah,
I think so.
okay.
So yeah, Kulusevski was definitely the first choice right winger for most of last season. Johnson got a couple of runs off the back of being good off the bench, and then Kulusevski's good off the bench, and it's like, oh, maybe it's not either one
Yeah.
good player; it's coming off the bench that's the helpful thing, right? But it seems like pre-season, Kulusevski is no longer considered a right winger. We're exploring him as a 9 option. We're exploring him in midfield. Not to say that he won't get any right wing minutes, but he isn't the priority player there. And Brennan Johnson's been starting there in preseason. My hope is, oh my goodness, my hope is that Brennan Johnson is not our starting right winger, not out of a deep hatred for Brennan Johnson, but because Spurs need the profile of a player to come in and reliably beat their man, get to the byline, low cross, goals and assists. And if we bring in a player like that, then all of our forwards start to become interesting options in my opinion, and Maddison more so, right? But then at the same time, if Brennan Johnson is starting games, he will get goals and assists. I'll find it personally frustrating, but he might still be a decent FPL pick because he'll get goals and assists, just not of the style that I want and reliably as I want. But definitely don't expect Kulusevski to be starting games, I think.
Yeah. Once the 9 experiment's over, you don't see it. It's Kulusevski that goes back to the right.
There's a chance that Kulusevski becomes our second choice number 9, and therefore gets a run of games at number 9 if we sell Richarlison, or even if we keep Richarlison, I guess. In which case, he might be good for a couple of goals, but I think that he's going to be in and out of the game, useful to Spurs, but not useful to an FPL squad.
And we've got Europa again, so it's only those 2 really out there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You expect Son gets the rest for Europa and Timo comes in. I think the only positive, what you're saying, Wendy, around Son, and you want to see him left. Kind of feel like Ange must want that too. Otherwise, why would he have done what he's done with Kulusevski?
Yeah, I think you're right, and we've not seen much of Sonta in the middle in pre-season when the opportunity's been there. He's mainly played through the left on the
First
left.
game he played up top, and then not since then.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, which I think does hint towards Ange wanting him wide left. Also, we've mostly been linked with right-sided wingers.
Yes.
And I think that also hints towards him wanting Son on the left.
Yeah.
And the fact that we signed Werner, similar profile-ish to Son-ish, probably implies that those 2 are the kind of, the first choice and then the rotation option.
I mean, Neto can do both, can't he, as well? So there is.
Yeah, he can play both sides. I think he would probably play mostly right side for us, but he certainly could play left side.
Yeah. And we think, it does sound, everything seems like transfer-wise, look, Spurs fans already, we're now panicking that we're not getting anyone. Nothing's happening. It's all doom and gloom, despite the fact that nobody's got anybody. That's here, neither here nor there. We've got a lot of players still to move out. I feel like, to be able to just get the squad room to be able to do it. And someone, as I said, did a really good video that showed that. But it does seem like the additions. It feels to me like 2 from 4 from Solanke, Tony, Eze, and Neto. Really, that seems to be, which doesn't sound quite as cool as I'd like. Do you know what I mean? I want to hear someone that's from another league. I don't know it, but Nathan's told us about it. I saw sort of links with Forest earlier to Santiago Jimenez and stuff, and I was like, oh, can we have someone like him, like do that sort of stuff and in that world? But it does feel like we're looking to strengthen first team from players with Premier League experience to go with the youth that we've got.
Yeah, I've been the guy banging the drum about scouting other leagues and not overpaying for Premier League players for the last 5 years or whatever. But in that time, the Premier League has really gone up a level compared to its competitors with the mainly with the coaching talent in the league, but also for financial reasons too. And so Premier proven is 10% more significant than it was just a few years ago. And if Spurs want players to affect the first 11, then you're probably going to want to bring in a Premier League existing player and pay over the odds for it, right?
So we've got
Big
question.
time.
Just got a question. We just want to rank our top 3 Spurs attackers in order. Where would you go?
If you had to put one of them in,
I mean, if money's no issue, I think I'd pick Son still. And then Maddison, and then probably Johnson.
but Maddison over Kulu and Brennan.
Yes. Yeah, just like you said, bonus points, set pieces. Also, I think he's
Extra
brilliant.
points.
I really rate Maddison. I think he's an excellent player. I think he he dipped last year. He lost confidence in his body for whatever reason after injury and didn't look himself at all. Hence, he wasn't in the Euros squad. But already in pre-season, I think he's kind of looking back to his normal self. Got a bit of swagger back. He's really good.
Really good.
What would your top 3 be?
Number 1 is whoever plays number 9 for us, basically,
Yeah,
because everything we've said about like Spurs can't keep a defensive sheet, right? It's like a clean sheet, sorry, defensively. We churn out the chances for our number
Yeah.
9. We absolutely put them on the plate. So whether it's Richarlison's fit for a run of games, whether we bring in Solanke, whether Son moves back to being number 9, even if it's Kulusevski getting a run of games at number 9, whoever's in that role is going to get goals and a couple of assists because that is the strength of the team is open play chance creation. If we bring in Solanke and a new right winger who can beat their man, oh my goodness, that's overall number 1 pick. Like they're gonna absolutely feast.
yeah.
So and then I'm saying Maddison. Then I'm saying look at Johnson's price and things like that.
And we said attacking because Porro for me is
Sure.
stand out if you're doing the whole team.
Yes. Yeah. Same.
Yeah. Mikey Moore's not been priced up. No price, because I suppose hasn't signed contract yet, whatever, and all that stuff. So they've not put him in the game. So we don't know what he's coming in, but I'm assuming if he comes in, it's like 4.5 or 5.0. That it definitely won't be more than that. It's only right as we only have you on occasionally that we have some kind of predictions for Mikey Moore this season.
I think the only prediction you can make is that he will get a good number of minutes this year because he's part of the first team squad now. And that seems absurd to be saying about a 16-year-old, but it's true. He's a first team squad member. I think he'll probably play like maybe 500 minutes. And so I don't think that makes him a viable FPL option. However, if he is at some point coming off the bench, a bit like what I said about Bergvall earlier, he can do things in a productive attacking Spurs side. He's more than capable of creating, especially against tired legs. Physically, he's not 16. He's absurd. He's another freak. So yeah, I would steer clear of Moore for now. But later in the season, if he's getting regular cameos, then sure, fill up your last midfield slot with Mikey Moore.
I'm really interested to see how good this Europa League side is going to look like, right? Because it feels like this is where they're all going to be, right? So Dragushin's going to play, and Spence is definitely going to play. Ben Davis probably plays because Ben Davis is Ben Davis. But Archie Gray might play, in there as well. Bergvall, Mikey Moore, you can play Kulu in there. Werner will get minutes in there as well. I mean, that's quite a lot of energy, quite a lot of good quality players that we're talking about getting minutes in the Premier League. the back end of the season might be where we see more of it. I mean, obviously, it depends on how far we go in the Europa League. But yeah, no, that's promising. Definitely promising.
Yes.
And Spence getting minutes is good news for anyone looking to pick Porro because it means he gets a rest and sharing the burden a bit. I think, yeah,
Definitely.
Mm.
Definitely. Good. Good. I mean, there's no way I'm not having Porro on my team game at one. That's definitely there. At the moment, like, I do see there's some good 10s. There's some really good 10 million plan players. Your Son, yeah, you know, Foden's just under 9.5, Palmer's just over 10.5, Saka's there at 10, Salah's a bit more. Most people have got kind of one of those in their team. Son's got the best first two fixtures, really, effectively, and he's the only one of those that's, you know, Salah's obviously a bit more expensive, but of the 10s, he's the only one that's had a pre-season, effectively. Palmer, Saka, and Foden haven't, which it draws me. It draws me in a lot. It draws me in a lot for it. But yeah, I do wonder, you know, the likes of if Kulusevski or Brennan suddenly like Kulusevski does look like he got the number 9 to start the season. It's like, well, you can have him and then it gets you to afford Salah quite easily. And it's like,
It's making me more Maddison. Like, it's making me more hotter on
Maddison curious too.
Yeah, really. Because a lot of things that I've been tinkering around with either Haaland or Salah. So, for example, let's say I go with with Haaland and no Salah. I've been going for Son, which means I can't get Trent. So if I drop that down to a Maddison, like, Trent just is immediately available, and that feels really interesting. Just little tweaks like that make, and you know, you don't just get Trent out of that, you get more out of that as well. You get another probably million quid that you can spend elsewhere as well. It's just, I mean, I'll have to have a look how that looks, but I was keen on Maddison as soon as the pricing came out. I was really keen on Maddison, and then everything cooled off, and I think that might have been due to just noise around Maddison from Spurs and from the fact that FPL community weren't really talking about him, but they tend to not talk about Spurs anyway, so there is that. But I needed this today. Actually. If I end up with game week 1 Maddison,
captain him against Leicester.
I'd love that.
You would love that. I love dangling these carrots. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he does this. He does this. So Baker does this knowing full well that on next Friday, when we are at Fantasy Football Fest, when the deadline hits, I'll have had half a dozen beers and a couple of fivers. that Maddison captaincy is well on the table by then.
that carrot's getting chopped.
He does do this. What was the last time you? When's the last time you did it?
I did it for Vardio, mate. I tempted you on Vardio, and he got 20 points. So it's not, sometimes it works. I did it for KDB before that, and that didn't work out too well.
Yeah,
no.
Fun time.
But hey, well, it's a pleasure, boys.
Absolutely. And I hear you're plotting against me, Baker.
Well, I've offered the services. We always, you know, have you two lovely people, but you are a trio. And the third member, Bardi, I heard on a pod that you said that, you know, Bardi played all season last season, sort of cracked on with it, and I was like, I'll help him.
It's mission beat Windy.
Mission beat Windy. So I've offered to support. Look, you know, there's no way. Like, immediately, you know, Bardi is way too headstrong to let me sort of like tell him what to do as such. But maybe if I can try and push him a little in a few directions, that hopefully.
I can just imagine as soon as you say, "Oh yeah, Gabriel's a good pick in defence," he'd be like, "Oh no, that no go."
Absolutely
not interested.
Give him some punishing Antonio Conte style homework, like some like detailed videos that he has to watch, or some real deep reading with a lot of numbers.
All Taskmaster Italian style manager on him.
Yeah,
he'll be in. We'll see how he gets on. He's going to race up the Sidekicks League. He's taking it this season.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, thank you very much, guys, for coming and joining us again. Thank you to everyone in the chat. There is one final question that I am going to ask. Who do we think the box crashing 8 will be? I mean, is it just going to be Sarr? Is there any competition for him on that right side? Significant competition for him?
What do you think, Nathan?
The fullbacks. The
Mm,
fullbacks will be the box crashers instead.
Wow.
yeah.
So Porro, basically more Porro.
More Porro.
More Porro. Give us
More
Porro.
propaganda.
Love it. You read that off the chat earlier, didn't you?
Propaganda.
Love
That's
it.
it.
Love it. Cool. We'll leave it there. Windy, Nathan, thanks for joining us as always. Windy, best of luck with FPL this season, seeing as you're against Baker and Bardi combined. Nathan, as I say, one pod closer. We're one pod closer. So, but we may get you next time. But
We'll get you.
until next time, thanks very much again for coming on, and have a good season on your pod. Again, to everyone, if you haven't checked out the Extra Inch, and particularly if you're a Spurs fan, go check them out. It's the Extra Inch on X, and as you say, Spotify, Apple, blah blah blah, Patreon, you get Discord, etc., 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 which is great. And we'll be back. So the next week for us is a bit, as I say, is a bit fluid on our podcast, but we should be podcasting again on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then we will have probably one more podcast before the start of the season. So we are almost there.
Almost there.
Almost there. Thanks a lot, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.